Hi, welcome to the CareStack podcast slash videocast. This is Jim Gerson with CareStack. I'm thrilled to have Dr. Jasmine Elmore today as my guest. And the title of our episode today is Expanding My Practice with a New Location, Considerations for Starting from Scratch. And Dr. Jasmine Elmore is a pediatric dentist from Durham, North Carolina. And she's going to talk about her personal experience of growing from 1 to 2 locations and just about that voyage with technology. And Dr. Elmore, thank you so much for being our guest this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Of course, Jim, you're welcome. Thanks for having me today.
You got it. You got it. I know people aren't here listening to me. They want to hear about your experience. So if we can get to it in a moment, I think a great place to start is you've really had a kind of a fascinating experience from my perspective as a clinician and now as the owner and still clinician, but of a multi-location group. And would you mind kind of sharing your voyage, your experience in dentistry with our audience today? That would be a great place to start.
Yeah, I think my dentistry journey is a little unique from most people. 3 years ago, I decided that I was having some shoulder pains that were kind of just too much to handle. And in trying to find answers for myself, I discovered this thing called airway and breathing, and not from the sleep apnea side that most people are used to, but through PT and postural work. So now, actually, in this new location, we work with PTs, physical therapists. We work with lactation consultants. We work with all types of professionals that can assist and collaborate in the care of whether it's infants, adults, or children in our practice to help them breathe better so that they don't have these shoulder pains, knee pains, gut issues, all of these things that I had no idea were related back to my teeth. And so it's been a fascinating 3 years of a journey. And so I just decided on September 1st of this year, post-COVID, or I guess middle of COVID, or whatever we're calling this thing, to go ahead and jump out on the ledge and open this new adventure.
Yeah, thanks for the background. It's really like a holistic approach to dentistry. And yeah, that's fascinating. Is that a fair way to put it, or am I off base with that kind of moniker?
No, that's perfect. We do call it holistic. I tell people the teeth tell me about how you breathe, and looking at your feet, I can tell about your teeth just from everything that I've studied and finding those answers for myself, and posture and all these other different types of things. There's about a 12-point analysis that we do in the practice. And then we assist on our end, of course, with the oral cavity, but we also collaborate with other providers, because one of the frustrating things for a lot of people is you send me to an office, they don't know really anything about me. I feel like I'm starting back at scratch, and then they have their own treatment plan. You have no idea what they're talking about. And so
Sure.
I actually weekly speak to these PTs, and we're doing our therapy together. And I speak to the malfunctional therapists. We do our therapies together. So it really is a collaborative, and it's probably the coolest thing I've ever done. I can't take credit for the idea. I have friends out in California and friends in New York that are doing kind of the similar style format. And I was
Okay.
interested to bring it here to the Carolinas. So it's only a couple months in, but it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're fortunate enough to have in your area, like in Durham and Chapel Hill, it's a very educated part of the country for just the reality of it. There's so many different schools and everyone talks about that area. So does that play a factor? Are patients pretty receptive or knowledgeable, or are you really starting from scratch in terms of educating them on what you do?
Yeah, I think a little mixture of both. It depends on, the reason people are coming in. We started with a good amount of people who have been waiting for a while. They knew that I was studying in New Jersey with, in
Okay.
my opinion, the best of the business, Dr. Barry Rayfield, and Dr. Sarush Zagi, and all these people I've been studying, Dr. Herman Ramirez in Canada, in case any people have heard these names. I studied with them for years. And then finally they're like, hey, Jasmine, what are you going to do with this stuff? And I'm like, oh, good idea. What should I do with this stuff? They're like, open your own thing. Like, oh, yeah, maybe that is the next step. Because integrating it where my office, my flagship office is, it's just a different environment, and the
Okay.
needs there are different. So I had to really identify where are the people with the most needs, where are the people who are calling, where are they calling from? And
Right.
so that was the area that they were calling from. But I think there is an advantage to having a population that is willing to research things, ask the difficult questions, and they're not looking for the easy answers, the easy solutions. They really do want to get to the root cause of their problems. And as long as that takes, or, whatever it takes to get there, they're willing to put in the work that's required to go down that path and that journey. So I really have just been really blessed with the opportunity to provide the services here, and it's just been a really cool experience.
Yeah, thank you for the context. Didn't mean to take you off target there, but I just think
No.
it's fascinating. So do you mind if we shift gears here for a moment, if that's all right?
Of course, we're here to talk about CareStack.
No, no, that's okay. But I think what a lot of our listeners and viewers are curious about is from your perspective, as someone who's overseeing a 2 location group, and you mentioned they're really different businesses, right? Kind of 2 separate entities, but in terms of how they approach the marketplace. But how does practicing dentistry and running a group practice and running a dental practice, like what kind of role does technology play in your world?
I think pre-COVID technology was maybe something you could maneuver around and, make it work. The person I purchased my flagship practice from was in his 70s when he decided to retire and sell the office to me. And right before he did that, he transitioned into Dentrix. So the staff had only been using Dentrix for about 6 months. And he was
Okay.
reluctantly like, I really want to sell. I know I can't sell to somebody young without, having some type of medical record system electronically. And so we have an attic full of charts. I mean, like dozens and dozens of charts.
Okay.
And actually, in my residency program, where I graduated in 2015, we actually still had paper charts and paper records. So I came from that background and transitioned into private practice in through Dentrix. So I was used to a software. But I think that after COVID now, or in the midst of COVID, technology is absolutely critical and vital because people want flexibility. They want to be able to communicate with you in a way that's easy and simple and maybe minimal contact. So instead of, let's say, for example, signing a treatment plan, it's so much more convenient now to have that on a pad that they can sign with their finger and those types of things, or take a payment without actually having to touch the patient or have them come into the office. So having that flexibility with technology, being able to communicate multi-location, if it's the same style office, or even just communicate to providers and send them notes or things like that, so much easier and almost required with people now working from home and doing so many different things involving technology, like here we are on Zoom. So, I mean,
Right.
it's one of those things where the technology is now a requirement. And so the easier you can make the technology for your patients, you're reducing a barrier to get them to come into your practice. And so now they almost expect for it to be as electronic and, touchless as possible too. So for the old school people, they're going to have to catch up, unfortunately, because the expectations now are that things will be electronically sent to the patients.
That's a great segue to a question that we have together here, which is talking about patient expectations about technology. And let's just segue into that for a moment. So you bring that up, like what have you seen just in the last several months or year in terms of how the expectations have changed or how they've grown with patients?
Yeah, I think my situation is a little different because I have two totally different practices here. One
Right.
of my offices is about 95% Medicaid. And so, as a board certified pediatric dentist, we're bringing a quality service into an area that needs it. Whereas my new office is totally fee for service, and we're doing something that's on the cutting edge of technology. So, it
Okay.
really is like apples and oranges. And yet, in both of those populations that are very vastly different, they have the same expectations for technology because it's still people, right? So they want things to be simple. They have iPhones, they have Androids. So to ask them to kind of integrate their mind into paper is just like, that's just too weird now. It's almost like, hey, shouldn't this be electronic? And that was
Right.
before COVID.
Okay.
Parents text me all the time. We send information back and forth. So the ability to send that information securely from my phone and different things like that is a huge, huge factor for choosing a software. But for patient expectations, I think that to be able to have such a big range of people to service, they all want things to be easy and simple. And I think people think of technology as being something when it works, as being something that's easy and simple.
Yeah, well put. I mean, the CareStack side are, for example, online forms, like patients completing forms on the portal before they come into an appointment. Like we have the data, and it showed, in February, March, leading up to the kind of shutdown, then reopening of dental practices. It's insane, Dr. Elmore. I mean, the usage has gone up 8x or 8 times what it was beforehand. And I think that's here to stay. I mean, patients don't want their perception, right, is the clipboard is where all the germs reside. Probably not true, but they see it that way, right? So they don't want to use that common surface like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that you just made me think about is patients also want to be seen on time. And sometimes they lack the awareness that if you tell them to come 15 minutes early to fill out paperwork, that they can fill that paperwork out in 2 minutes. Or if you tell them to come 30 minutes early because you're a new patient, they can do that in 10. And so because they don't know what you do, they don't know
Well
your
put.
world, they know their time. And so if you can complete this paperwork in advance and we can continue to remind you to do it, and we can read it or resend it or have the ability to make sure that it's right on our end before you arrive, now the doctor's more prepared, the staff is more prepared. And now when you enter, we maybe are taking your payment, but then again, we're doing that now also before they come in. So now when you arrive, you're going right into treatment, no wait, no waiting room, all these different things. I think we've gotten a big response from people about that. Like, okay, you can just take my temperature, do these little COVID things and go right into the chair, even though we have those annoyances for most people with that. Hey, I didn't have to sit in the waiting room
Oh,
and
it's so much
watch
more
the thing,
efficient. Yeah.
yeah, on your TV and sit there and watch the same video. Well, as a pediatric dentist, it's probably, Moana or something. I have to watch Moana for the 100th time. I literally could just
One more
leave the
time, right?
car. Right, exactly. So, but the parents appreciate that. And the adult patients in my practice appreciate the efficiency. So I think it's added to that for sure. And it is here to stay, because I don't think anybody wants to go back to that waiting room philosophy at all.
It could be one of the few benefits of this pandemic, right? Is that it's changed expectations and behaviors in terms of
Absolutely.
dentistry. So one of the ways you were introduced to CareStack was through a partnership that we have with Unified Smiles. And I'm not sure that a lot of the viewers and listeners understand Unified Smiles. And I would really defer to you on that. But that was a way you were introduced to CareStack, because we're like a nascent company. We're not a brand name. The marketplace is dominated by, the major monolithic solutions out there. So if you could share with us a little bit about, the introduction to CareStack from Unified Smiles, and more importantly about Unified Smiles, just because the organization and what they do for independent dentists, that would be great.
Yeah, so I think that you had somehow I got connected to you maybe before. No, you're right. Actually, it was Unified Smiles. I was thinking maybe I saw CareStack in my email somewhere beforehand, but no, it was a Unified Smiles flyer, and you had a really detailed um, email that you sent that I really liked. And then of course at the bottom you guys had little teasers and things like get your Amazon gift cards. It's like, oh wow, how could you lose? But I actually ended up watching it a replay and didn't really want or need the Amazon gift card because I was so intrigued about CareStack. But Unified Smiles did a really good job of kind of putting your stuff kind of at the forefront, especially in the time frame that everything was going on, sending repeat emails. And I don't know if that was led necessarily by CareStack or Unified Smiles, but we had a really good exposure and very detailed brochures about CareStack, so that I had a lot of questions kind of answered before I had to sit in on the webinar and learn more information, which answered even more questions and really sold it for me. But Unified Smiles in general, they're a really good third party vendor in connecting doctors with other things, other companies for a discount, actually a very significant discount due to their vast partnerships. And so I was introduced to them in 2017, like maybe a month or two before I purchased my flagship office. And I thought, wow, for this low fee per month, and I can save hundreds and hundreds of dollars, it only makes sense to do it. And I think through Unified Smiles, I have a partnership with a dental supply company, our uniform company, and several other things that
Sure.
are all facilitated with the discounts that they afford. So it's really about saving money. And if you're going to sign up for the things anyways, you might as well save money while you do it. So I think that it's a good partnership. And I know Unified Smiles, I've spoken to enough people higher up to know that they pick the vendors that they want to promote they take a long time to pick those people. They use a fine tooth comb process, if
Yeah,
you
they
will, to
vet
pick
them.
them.
That's right. They put them
They
through the
really
paces.
do. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Thank you. So yes, they do vet them. And I think that also spoke volumes for like CareStack. I hadn't heard of it. I didn't know what it was. None
Right.
of my friends knew. But if Unified Smiles would have it in an email, then I knew it was something I needed to look into once I saw what you guys were offering all in one thing. And I just was, very intrigued, but having the backing from them also definitely played a huge role.
I think it's great because as an independent dentist, right, there's so many, how do you compete with the groups that have the funding or foundation of all the big, or the DSOs for that matter, right? And so
Mhm.
having someone who's an advocate for you as an independent practice is important. So thank you for speaking to that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, thank you for. I mean, the relationship's been bi-directional, and we've really enjoyed working with them. And like you said, they've really done a good job vetting. So for us to be on their kind of menu of offerings with other really reputable companies is important for us too as well. We want to be equally represented. So thank you for speaking to that.
Yeah,
On the
absolutely.
topic of technology modernization, you have your existing practice that you mentioned that, and then you open this new one. There might be a gravitational pull just to stick to doing what you know, right? Using in your case, like Dentrix, because it's the brand name and it's out there and it's what the other practices was working on. So can you walk our listeners and viewers through like why you made a decision to go in a different direction for this new practice?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the easiest kind of just me being me explanation to that is the reason this new practice is called About Face Collaborative is because it's a turn in a new direction and about the face. So personality wise, I'm always attracted to something that's new, different, and innovative. And I'm going to do my research about it with anything, with the clothes I wear and everything. But just from a dentistry standpoint, having a new office that now is incorporating so many different things, traditional dental software is not the direction I wanted to go. And CareStack was able to kind of meet me in the middle a bit. Whereas the traditional dental software, but I had capabilities to be able to make it work for my practice as well. And so for me, it made sense to break away from Dentrix in order to move towards something that I felt was going to be able to meet my needs and also incorporate all of the different things that CareStack incorporates, which I'm sure you're going to get to in a minute. But in my flagship office, we have so many different companies that we are paying for different products. And as you know, because you work with a company, fees and things go up. I mean, nothing was meant to
Right.
stay the same price for 30 years. I mean, our dental prices don't stay the same. But in order to have this product over here that does patient reminders, and that just went up $50. And then this product over here that tracks scheduling, and that goes up, all of those different things with Dentrix. I didn't want that same format and setup. I wanted something that was going to be, it's like, there's got to be one product that has everything in one. And so when I saw that in CareStack, I got excited because I had been wondering that for years. How can we best incorporate all of these different things into one thing, right? We have a phone that also can send emails, that also can send text messages, that also can be a video camera and a regular photo camera and all these different things on one device. So why are we still using 16 different companies to achieve one interaction with a patient? And so I saw that CareStack was thinking the same thing. So I thought this will work out. This will be a good marriage.
Yeah, thank you for making that parallel. Like in some of the webinars we do, we joke around back in 2005 or 2006, guys wore like cargo shorts and cargo pants, and women had like, larger bags and maybe even like a fanny pack because you needed all those pockets for the different devices, right? Your phone was your camera was a separate camera, right? Your iPod, Dr. Elmore, was a totally different device. A flashlight that would need something different. And now we fast forward to 2020, and it's commonplace that all those devices are in one. And so that's really a driving force right behind CareStack is unifying that. So thank you for speaking to that. So what kind of efficiencies, you mentioned being more efficient, obviously aside from money, because that's obviously one of the motivations, right? You save money. What are some of the efficiencies that you can enjoy by not having, an on-premise software like Dentrix, excuse me, with different bolt-ons? Like, maybe you could speak to that for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think the two biggest things that we've noticed have been number one, the ability to have a server that someone else manages. So as a startup, when you're doing anything like that, not to bring it back to cost, because I know you said other than cost, but that is a cost to have a server, to make sure it's secure, to house it and things like that. And so you guys take that stress really away from the office. And then the other thing is the staff having the ability to work from home. So they can log onto a secure internet connection. We have our two-step authentication and the things that will keep us within the parameters to stay secure and meet privacy, things like that.
Sure.
But now my staff at 9 o'clock at night can go on and drop some information in from our secure email and line those things up very easily instead of having to go to the office. And so I think the staff appreciate that flexibility when the weather's bad and we have scheduled a bunch of Zooms. We don't have to go to the office to get that information from those Zoom sessions for those patients into our patient management software, our electronic medical records. We can get that information literally on from our work computers and not have to be at the office. So I think they appreciate that a lot and probably are the most excited about that.
Yeah, it can make their life more efficient. But let's face it, right? So you're bringing this new technology. There's not thousands of users, Dr. Elmore, that are experienced with CareStack, right? Like your area is not flooded with care. Hey, I'm a CareStack trained expert, right? That's the reality. We're a new company. Whereas with some of our competitors, there's people that have been doing that program for 20 or 30 years. So what's that like as a practice owner? You make this decision, and obviously you consult with your team, but now you're coming in, you're saying, hey, we're going to do something new. It's called CareStack. Here it is. Like, walk me through how that was received, and be candid. I want to hear the nitty gritty and like where they are now versus where they were several months ago. I think everyone would be curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think whenever you bring anything new into a dental office, anybody who's worked in a dental office or own a dental office, people are like, no, I don't want anything new. But if you think about it, for the majority of us, and we all have different personalities. We do personality testing and all that stuff in our new practice because we're just like nerds like that. And we want to know how to communicate the best when challenges arise. But for the most of our personalities in the office, when we get a new whatever from the store, and I know Black Friday's coming up, you buy a new thing, most of us don't look at the instructions. We just kind of pick it up and start playing with it and looking at it. And it's like trial and error. So from that perspective, and maybe also because I have millennials and Gen Zers and things like that in the practice, but from that perspective, the initial, I don't want to do anything new goes to, oh, actually, let's try it. Oh, actually, it's cool. And then we get someone like Danae who checks in periodically and says, hey, are you still implementing? How can I assist you? Let's hop on a 15-minute call. It'll be short, sweet, and simple. Teach you things about CareStack. You guys use it for a couple of days, get back with me. So the responsiveness of CareStack has been really big. So if you have questions, it's very easy to get on with someone very quickly and get answers as you're feeling out the different kinks with the program. And then also there's CareStack University or CareStack U, however you guys have it described, which makes it very easy and simple to train yourself. And again, you can do that, sit on the couch in PJs at 9 o'clock at night and not have to do that at the office, learn something, then go right onto CareStack, make a fake patient and integrate it. So getting us caught up to the new software was actually really easy once the initial I don't want to do anything new happens, but that happened with our Trio scanner, that happened with our laser. I mean, that wasn't like a software thing. I think that happens with every new thing you bring in. It's like, wait, I don't want to do it. And then, oh yeah, well, we have no choice. Let's go ahead and try it. Oh, this is easy. I think that was kind of for the staff, how that ended up going. We do have one older person. She's 63. And I know for a couple of weeks, she was just like, oh, First Dentrix found this. I don't want to learn this new thing. And I was like, hey, you can go on CareStack U at night. You can go on CareStack U while you have your laptop in your lap and you're watching your Westerns on TV and you have popcorn. And she was like, really? I'm going to do that. And the next thing I knew, she was entering notes in CareStack before I was the person who didn't want to.
What a cool story.
So, so I think that being able to have that university already there and then having people easy to reach. She had several meetings with Danae, and I'm sure you have other people that are in the similar role as far as being a resource to integrate you into CareStack. But with that type of flexibility and learning, so if you learn through pictures and video, we have it this way. If you learn through one-on-one training, and I think Go Video or whatever it's called, their version of Zoom that they use with Danae, just hopping on that for 15 minutes. If you're an auditory learner or let's walk through learner, you guys really have done a good job at looking at how people learn and making it easy to integrate. So it really was an easy process.
I'm glad you spoke to that because adult learning techniques are really critical, right? Like the days of sitting in a classroom for an hour and just everyone learning at that same speed doesn't really translate. And then, taking an exam that's 55 minutes. So it's fascinating that you spoke to it. And some of these generational stereotypes are being shattered too along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So as kind of we wind up here, let's talk about implementation, right? So you're running a practice, your existing office, you're building a new one, and you're running that practice, you're being pulled in a lot of different directions. And a big thing for CareStack is we don't want to shut down your office, and so you stop seeing patients, so you learn a software that doesn't work for us. And we know, like, why would we want to do that to someone? There's been enough challenges in 2020, right, to have to go that angle. So can you walk us through the experience of, implementing CareStack and, running your business kind of simultaneously? And if you want to share any watch outs for our listeners and viewers, that's totally fine. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I don't think I had any watch outs from CareStack. I think the one thing that I want is to add more forms. So we have a lot of forms. Like, we have a very extensive medical history for kids and adults, and then also a patient wellness profile where we find out things about their hobbies, and we weren't able to enter that into CareStack. That's really the only thing we couldn't do with CareStack. So we have another platform we use to house that material. I shouldn't say to house it, to grab it securely, and then we drag it into CareStack. But we send the alerts out electronically to people to fill them out. It's like one of the platforms, it's 7 different buckets of pages. So it's a lot of information. And so that's probably the one and only limitation of CareStack that I've run into at this point. We're only 2 months in, so I'll let viewers know, but everything has been smooth. I mean, I hate to make it sound like it was really easy, but as far as implementation, everything really is very, simple. It's very easy to find. It's easy to search patients. It's easy. There's a little bar down the left-hand side that's easy to see everything you need to see. So if you need to see documents, it's just right there. If you need to see their insurance, it's right there. If you need to see if they have a balance, it's right there. If you need to add an alert, if you want to see their entire demographic information, it's all very easy to find. And I knew that when the 63-year-old person who didn't want to do it was figuring it out before I did. So it really is simple. I hate to disappoint anyone looking for me to say it was difficult, but it really is simple. Outside of just having the ability to send more forms electronically, which, I mean, most offices aren't sending that many forms, so I can understand why that wasn't something already built in. But there is a lot of flexibility with, Danae has showed me how to pick a clinical note that's rapidly occurring, and the process of adding in a template I actually like better than I like with what we had before with the previous softwares. And so implementation has actually been really easy and really smooth. It almost seems like an unlimited vault that you can add in more details. We've added in photos, CBCTs, intraoral photos, all those things we just integrate right into CareStack. And we haven't had any type of issues with getting PDFs in there or JPEGs or videos or we haven't had any issues. And we have all that stuff in there for the patient records.
Yeah, thank you for touching on that. And I think this is a great opportunity to talk about, like, one of the philosophies at CareStack is that the product tomorrow is going to be better than it is today. We really are at the mercy, though, of our clients, of our clinicians and users, to give us feedback so we can make more enhancements, because it's not perfect, right? So I think it's okay. Let's talk this. So I know you have a wish list, and you mentioned it. You kind of previewed it for us, but our leadership is going to be listening to this. Our developers are going to be listening to this. So talk, what is on that wish list? It's the form portion, but where would you like to see CareStack evolve and maybe offer more functionality for someone like yourself? If you could talk to that, that would be great.
That's such a hard one, because when I had the Zoom with you, you talked about telemedicine and CareStack's integration into telemedicine. So if you check, you guys are doing that already.
We did that. We beat you to it, right?
Right, exactly. So
That's
now
right.
you can communicate, you can do the text messaging and get to people that way. I mean, until we get the fingerprint scanner and, you have to get in every door and every car door and everywhere with that. I mean, I think CareStack has everything handled, because you can do the telemedicine, you can send text messages, you can communicate to your patients in multiple ways through CareStack and the platform and things that are connected with that. And then with your team, if I need to leave a message or an alert, that's easy to do as well. We didn't talk about the check-in, how you can show that somebody has checked in for the,
Right.
for their COVID screening and all of that. We can put their temperatures in CareStack. I mean, everything can literally just be housed in there very simply and easily. We can send alerts, we can send reminders, we can send emails, we can send mail. We can literally do everything all in one platform. So for me at this point, outside of the forms, I can't really think of much on my wish list. I just had the extra form capability in there, but I'm sure I'll ask my team to really give me some goods. But they know I was meeting with you today, and they only had positive things to say about CareStack. And like I said, we have someone who checks in with us weekly and has been on me about not scheduling back with her because she really wants me to be successful. Danae, I have to
Sure.
shout her out because she really wants me to be
That's
successful
awesome.
with CareStack and use all of the features to the max. So for the first, month or so, I was like, well, my note is just a little bit different than my other office's note. And she's like, let me help you. Let me, to the point where she called you about it. Hey, Dr. Elmore's not getting with me. What's up? In most companies, they ask you a couple times, hey, you need help. And then when you don't respond, they're like, okay, I guess you got to figure it out. Bye. So far, CareStack hasn't been like that. There's still a lot of making sure that we're doing okay, which is very appreciated on my end for people to check in and make sure that we are performing well with it. So as long as that wish list includes keep hiring amazing team members that'll make sure we get everything we need, I'm good. Just the forms for me.
Well, the door is open. So if you don't have an answer today, that's okay. Just know that that's how we're gonna get our product better. It's not going to be from 10 engineers and the rest of us sitting around thinking about what's going to be of value. It's going to be talking to the people that use the product every day. And so, thank you so much for your candor. Again, I want to thank you, Dr. Jasmine Elmore of About Face Collaborative in Durham, North Carolina. We have many clients in North Carolina, but I think you're our first client in the Durham area. So I want to thank you. And maybe in 2021, we can meet in person somewhere when these dental
That would
events
be
start
great.
back up, right? That's the goal. That's the hope.
That would be great as long as it's in your state because it's much sunnier there than it is than it is in mine.
It is Colorado. We've got 300 days of
Yeah.
sunshine. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely so. Well, thank you so much for being our guests. Again, Dr. Jasmine Elmore of About Face Collaborative. And we look forward to watching your journey together and being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. This was fun. Thank you so
You
much.
got it. Our pleasure.